let's talk a little bit about the correct way to prepare your hive if you have a screen bottom board. So if you have a solid bottom board, you don't really have to do anything to your hive to get them ready for winter. If you have a screen bottom board, a lot of people are concerned with, do I need to cover the screen? Will my bees get too cold with the screen bottom board over the winter? What do I need to do to prepare them? So this hive has a screen bottom board. Now, you don't have to cover it, but in this particular hive we have. So we have our insert. So here's our screen bottom board insert. It can slide in the back and it fully covers that screen, and it keeps the bees a little bit warmer in the winter. I'm not so worried about warmth because bees don't keep the entire inside of their hive warm. They only keep that cluster warm. And so if you've got, a large cluster, they're able to keep their cluster warm. And a few inches away from that cluster, it may be, 45 degrees. In the middle of that cluster, they might be at 80 degrees. So the bees aren't trying to keep the whole inside of this hive warm. That being said, what you don't want is cold wind blowing up underneath that screen bottom board into the hive. If you're in a place like this bee yard where we just get a cold north wind all winter long, there's no tree line protecting us from the north, a steady cold wind can really chill that cluster, especially if it's a smaller hive. So with this hive where that cold wind can blow up under it, we have covered that screen bottom board. So that's a good thing to do. Another thing you can do if you don't want to cover that screen is you can just make sure you've blocked up the outside around the base so cold wind can't blow up under it. So you could use, really anything. I mean, you could get 4 pieces of wood, and put them on around it so the cold wind can't blow up under it. That works really well. My favorite thing to do, because I like leaving that screen exposed throughout the winter, because I still get varroa mites falling through that screen all throughout the winter. So I prefer to leave that screen exposed all through the winter. What I like to do is just get a deep box and an old lid, and I'll put the old lid on the ground just like that. I'll put this old deep box on top of it, and then I'll take my entire hive and move it on top of this deep box, or really I'll move the current stand, and I'll put this whole hive sitting on top of this configuration, because that's going to seal all the cold wind from blowing up. Cold wind can't blow up under that box now, but I still have this dead air space underneath that screen, so that every time that hive breaks cluster and goes out and flies on a warm day, they're still going to be losing varroa mites throughout the year. So I'm not going to do it because this hive is really heavy, but I would just put this configuration up under that hive, and that would be their hive stand. And so that open screen without that insert, those varroa mites are just going to fall through that screen throughout the winter. So that's my preferred method, but you can just block up the edges, or you can insert that cover like we did on this hive to keep them a little bit warmer through the winter.